This is wrestling's greatest moments.
Hey now, wrestling fans! It's time for another episode of Wrestling's Greatest Moments. The 1980s have often been called the second golden age of tag team wrestling due to the abundance of awesome teams. Unfortunately, with so many great teams, some very good teams have been overlooked. Sit back as Wrestling's Greatest Moments looks at 10 overlooked and underrated 80s tag teams. Before we get started though, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single video. Sergeant Slaughter and Don Kernodle. Although the team of Sergeant Slaughter and Don Kernodle didn't last long, the heel tandem made up in quality what they couldn't achieve in quantity. As noted in our video, non-WWF 80s jobbers, Don Kernodle was a journeyman jobber who got his golden ticket punched when he was teamed with Sergeant Slaughter. Slaughter utilized his gimmick as a retired Marine Corps drill instructor by putting Kernodle, as well as fellow jobber Jim Nelson, through a rigorous training program. While Kernodle and Nelson achieved mid-card success, Kernodle became World Tag Team Champion alongside Slaughter. As longtime Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling announcer Bob Caudle once recalled, Kernodle was a surprise to me. Until he teamed with Slaughter, he really didn't have a lot going for him. When he got with Slaughter and they sort of gelled together, they became a good team and a good combination. Slaughter and Kernodle spent most of their time battling Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling's top babyface team, Shea Youngblood and Ricky Steamboat, leading to the historic cage match known as the Final Conflict. Wrestling legend has it that the Final Conflict was so successful that Jim Crockett Jr. ran his closed-circuit show Starrcade due to how hot the product had become. The Destruction Crew, Wayne Bloom and Mike Enos. Although Bloom and Enos are likely best known for their WWF run as the Beverly Brothers, their run in the American Wrestling Association was epic. The two managed to pull off a gimmick of two construction workers without looking like they belonged in the Village People, and were portrayed as total hard cases. The Destruction Crew brought sledgehammers to the ring long before Triple H dreamed of going to Home Depot for a foreign object. They were an impressive sight and wowed fans enough to win 1989's Rookie of the Year award from Pro Wrestling Illustrated, the first and only tag team to achieve this. The Destruction Crew captured the AWA World Tag Team Championship and, like any good heel team, sent several opponents to the hospital. The East-West Connection, Adrian Adonis and Jesse Ventura. Another overlooked AWA team was Adrian Adonis and Jesse Ventura, aka the East-West Connection. The two won the AWA World Tag Team Championship from Vern Gagne and Mad Dog Vachon in 1980 by forfeit, after Gagne couldn't appear. While their title win wasn't momentous, their title reign was. Adrian Adonis was a mat technician who was always ready to break the rules as needed, while Jesse Ventura provided the team's muscle. As Jesse the Body often commented during his time in the announce booth, some of the best tag teams are comprised of two very different wrestlers. Such was the case here, as Adonis and Ventura complemented each other's styles, enabling them to hold off an array of challengers. The East-West Connection held the belts for nearly a year before dropping them to Jim Brunzell and Greg Gagne, aka the High Flyers. The WWF would pair Adrian up with Dick Murdoch, forming the WWF Tag Team Championship team, the North-South Connection. Rick Martel and Tony Garea. Garea was the epitome of a tag team specialist in the WWF, capturing the promotion's tag team titles 5 different times. Keep in mind that this was when tag title reigns were usually long, and tag champions weren't random pairings of wrestlers that promoters had no idea how to use. Garea was a solid uppercard singles star and a tag team legend. Randy Colley, aka Moondog Rex, a frequent opponent of Garea, once remarked, "He's got to be one of the greatest people you could work with. If you left and didn't have a good match with Tony Garea, it was your fault. He was one of the best." While Garea had several excellent tag partners, including Haystacks Calhoun, Dean Ho, and Larry Zbyszko, his pairing with Rick Martel was exceptional. The two held the WWF Tag Team Championship twice, defeating the Wild Samoans the first time, and the Moondogs, Rex and Spot, the second. Bad Company, Calgary Stampede Wrestling, Bruce Hart, and Brian Pillman. Calgary Stampede Wrestling's second run in the 80s saw some innovative booking and strong tag teams. One such team was Brian Pillman and Bruce Hart, aka Bad Company. Bruce Hart was an outstanding wrestler in Calgary Stampede, Wrestling legend has it that Vince McMahon wanted Bret Hart to feud with Bruce rather than Owen, and his team with Brian Pillman helped solidify Brian's status as a wrestler for fans to keep an eye on. Like the East-West connection, this was a team made up of wrestlers with two different styles, with Hart representing traditional mat-based wrestling, while Brian Pillman was a high flyer. This version of Bad Company preceded the AWA version. The Moondogs. The Moondogs are a well-known team for fans who watch Southern territories such as Championship Wrestling Association, the United States Wrestling Association, and Smoky Mountain Wrestling. However, they also were a top team in the WWF in the early 1980s. Managed by Captain Lou Albano, Moondog Rex and King defeated Tony Garea and Rick Martel for the WWF Tag Team Championship. King was replaced by Moondog Spot after reported travel issues for King, with Spot now defending the title alongside Rex. Although the Moondogs' star in the WWF fell in the 1980s, they were still a marketable team outside the promotion. The Moondogs had a hot feud with the Fabulous Ones in Memphis and were in enough demand to tour in All Japan Pro Wrestling. Buddy Rose and Doug Summers, if ever an 80s team screamed, "Don't judge a book by its cover," it was Buddy Rose and Doug Summers. Neither man was a physical specimen, but their years of experience, mastery of ring psychology, and ability to incite fans with their heel promos made them an ideal team to play off against the AWA's top babyface team, the Midnight Rockers, aka Shawn Michaels and Marty Jannetty. The Rockers' raw talent made for some exciting matches, but it was Rose and Summers who helped guide them as they worked a long but engaging feud in the AWA over the promotion's Tag Team Championship. The Long Riders, Bill and Scott Irwin. Real-life brothers Scott and Bill Irwin are one of wrestling's biggest what-if teams, as Scott's life ended far too early due to a bout with cancer. Nonetheless, the years the Irwins worked together led to some exciting matches and feuds, beginning with their work as the Mass Team, the Super Destroyers, and later as the Long Riders. The brothers Irwin had a highly successful run in world-class championship wrestling, including 3 reigns with a world-class American Tag Team Championship. The Irwins' feud with AWA World Tag Team Champions Scott Hall and Curt Hennig led to a wild match at the AWA's Wrestle Rock 86 Stadium show. The Irwins would likely have had a successful run in other promotions, including WCW and WWF. Jay Youngblood and Ricky Steamboat. Jim Crockett Promotions' babyface team of Jay Youngblood and Ricky Steamboat played a pivotal role in the tag team scene in the early 1980s. Not only were they the premier babyface team in the Mid-Atlantic region, but they were an example of how tag team wrestling was evolving in the 1980s. Many of the same qualities that would be associated with the Fabulous Ones and Rock and Roll Express, fluid tags, a good-looking team that appealed to female fans, but whose toughness appealed to male fans, and double-team maneuvers were all evident with Steamboat and Youngblood. The Steamboat-Youngblood duo held NWA World Tag Team Championship, Jim Crockett Promotions version, 5 times, and the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Championship once. Sadly, Jay Youngblood died in 1985, leaving fans to wonder if the two would have continued their pairing down the road. Bad Company. Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond. Interestingly, 2 overlooked teams make our list named Bad Company. We've already seen the Calgary Stampede Wrestling version, but the AWA version is also worth noting. Pat Tanaka and Paul Diamond began teaming up in the Memphis-based Championship Wrestling Association, winning the promotion's tag titles and battling with teams such as Tarzan Goto and Akio Sato, the Sheepherders, Luke Williams and Butch Miller, and superstar Bill Dundee and Rocky Johnson. However, Bad Company had bigger things ahead as they jumped to the AWA. There, they feuded with the Midnight Rockers, winning the AWA World Tag Team Championship. Diamond Dallas Page managed them as they feuded with Mando and Chavo Guerrero. Bad Company eventually dropped the tag titles to the Olympians Ken Patera and Brad Rengaines. However, they reunited in the WWF in the early 90s. Which 80s tag teams do you think don't get their due? Share your thoughts in the comment section and let us know if there's any videos you'd like Wrestling's Greatest Moments to cover. In the meantime, subscribe to our channel, follow us on X and Instagram, and spread the good news about Wrestling's Greatest Moments, the channel that celebrates the squared circle.